In Final Fantasy XIV, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are your allies. A stalwart group of friends as lovable and memorable as any collection of party members in the mainline Final Fantasy series. With such a colorful range of personalities within the Scions, and with recent renewal of interest in the Harry Potter franchise, I wondered, if the Scions were to attend Hogwarts, in which of the four houses would they be sorted? Would they wind up in Gryffindor, the House of Daring, Ravenclaw, the House of Wisdom, Hufflepuff, the House of Honesty, or Slytherin, the House of Cunning? For this video, I thought about each Scion and played Sorting Hat to sort each one. Mind that as I talk about each Scion's personalities and character, there will be spoilers through Endwalker. Let's start with Thancred. Good old Thancred. Among all the Scions, I think it's safe to say that he has undergone some of the greatest character growth over the years. We first meet him in A Realm Reborn as a wily, easygoing playboy rogue. But by Shadowbringers, he's become what we can simply describe as a gunblade-wielding Father of the Year awardee. However, I believe that Thancred has always consistently belonged to Gryffindor. He is confident, headstrong, and most importantly, always willing to put himself in danger to protect his friends and loved ones, whether that means handling dangerous reconnaissance work in Garlemald, or jumping into the front line as a gunbreaker. He is less academically or diplomatically inclined than many of his fellow Scions, always being a man of action first and foremost. Y'shtola. For me, Y'shtola might have been one of the easiest Scions to sort. Everyone's favorite Mikote conjurer and sorcerer has always been the studious and erudite member of the group. Whenever there's a quest that involves researching through old tomes, or whenever the moment requires someone adept in etherology, you can almost be sure Matoya's student is involved. For that reason, Y'shtola is most certainly a Ravenclaw. Yes, she has displayed plenty of the other house's traits as well, such as bravery and selflessness. But in her own words, her greatest love is always going to be the pursuit of knowledge and the discovery of the unknown, as best demonstrated in the Post and Walker quests. This woman doesn't see anything wrong with literally opening a gate to the void, if one could push the boundaries of knowledge in doing so. Urianger. Urianger is a fascinating character and arguably my personal favorite of the Scions. While he didn't have much to do in A Realm Reborn or Heavensward, he became significantly more involved in Shadowbringers and Endwalker, and his personality really came out in dramatic moments that, let's face it, befit a natural thespian like him. But where to sort him? On one hand, I thought Urianger may very well have fit Slytherin, being the Scion most capable of duplicity and cunning. He often seems to believe that the ends justify the means, as revealed in both the Warriors of Darkness arc and in the final revelations of Shadowbringers.
You snake! You would betray us as well?
But ultimately, by a hair, I think I would sort him into Ravenclaw. Why not Slytherin? Well, Urianger was most often a conniving schemer by necessity. He has expressed disdain at often having to work behind the scenes or lie to his companions. At his heart, Urianger is very much a scholar like Y'shtola, a man who finds joy most of all in learning, uncovering the unknown, and imparting his knowledge for the benefit of others, happy with no more than perhaps a little pudding as his reward. Alphino. I think it would be safe to say that when we all first met Alphino, we all freaking hated him. And that would be a fair assessment. He was a self-righteous, condescending, insufferable know-it-all. But even as he grew up before our eyes, humbled by the events of the Crystal Braves, forced to mature in the cold winds of Kurthus, and finally becoming someone we could root for, we already saw just what kind of person Alphino Leveilleur is. Alphino is a Slytherin, through and through. He is truly ambitious, often biting off more than he can chew, but also capable of handling himself at his prodigious young age. His primary tools in achieving his goals have always been diplomacy and politics, and, most telling for his character, among all the Scions, nobody believes nor yearns to change the world and create a lasting, impactful legacy as Alphino does. Alice. Where Alphino relied on words and wit to get things done, His sister Alisaie preferred more direct actions and straightforward solutions. And that dynamic has always been the main reason behind the twins being so lovable. They were similar in so many ways, and yet also so different. Alisaie can be brash, outspoken, and of course never hesitant to charge into danger to defend her beliefs. You can see where this is going, can't you? Alisaie is very much a Gryffindor. Yes, we know for a fact that she is academically brilliant like a Ravenclaw, and she is extremely thoughtful of the plight of others like a Hufflepuff. But when I think of Alisaie, you know what I think of? So, yes, Gryffindor. Minfilia. Unfortunately, we don't get much time with Minfilia. Through no fault of her own, we spend most of our time with her only during A Realm Reborn. And even then, most of her character development has already happened off-screen. What do we know about her before she's spirited away by Hydaelyn and promoted to tour guide of the Mother Crystal? Well, she's kind, thoughtful, and earnest to use her gifts for the good of the realm. For these reasons, I would sort Minfilia into Hufflepuff. I think it's worth noting that despite not being overly vocal or commanding like, say, Merlwyb or Rauban, the Scions unanimously see Minfilia as their leader, deferring to her for collective guidance and stability. It's her steadfast heart, goodness, and determination that serve as the Scions' beacon. And that's the kind of thing you can only expect from the best of Hufflepuffs. Lys. Lys, formerly known as Ida, has changed quite a bit since we first meet her as the young pugilist in the Shroud. While she has always been spirited and hasty, it is in Stormblood that we see her devotion to the Alamegan people and her willingness to step up in times of duress. I would choose to sort Lys into Gryffindor, but not because of her recklessness, and rather in spite of it. Let me explain. The most common criticism I read about Lys's character growth is how she didn't really deserve to lead the Alamegan resistance, that she got shoehorned into the position without ever really earning it. As a matter of fact, Lys herself felt the same. She didn't think she deserved it, and yet still accepted the position, along with all the responsibilities and obligations that came with it, because it was the right thing to do. No one else was going to do it, and in that terrifying absence of leadership, Lys accepted it. She had to learn on the fly how to be a leader, not just a fighter. And you know what? That's actually one of the bravest decisions that any Scion has had to deal with. Papalymo. Another one of the Scions whose time on the stage was all too brief. Everything we know about Papalymo is picked up through the lens of his friendship with Lys in her Ida persona, because for much of A Realm Reborn and the post-Heavensward story, they spend virtually every scene together. And what did we learn about Papalymo in that time? He is a stern but reliable mentor, a well-read Scion devoted to the cause, and most of all, a loyal friend. With his reputation as Louisoix's finest student, I certainly entertained putting Papalymo in Ravenclaw, but ultimately, I think he is actually a Hufflepuff. His interactions with Lys as Ida especially make it clear that he prioritizes the well-being of his friends and the realm far greater than his academic achievements. And in his final moments, while his knowledge of powerful magics was a handy tool, it is still his selfless heart that beats in the echoes of his heroic sacrifice. Tataru. The Scion's Coin Keeper is underappreciated in her role. I believe Tataru's two most defining traits are both her profound loyalty to the Scions and her willingness to get her job done. So it seems she could fit somewhat in both Hufflepuff and Slytherin. In the end, however, I believe that she most belongs to the House of the Serpent. Some of Tataru's most iconic moments have really been showcasing how shrewd and cunning she can be in the course of her work, like eavesdropping on patrons of the Forgotten Knight to gather information, or dealing with the East Aldenar Trading Company on the Scion's behalf. Think about the time that she dug up dirt on Carvelane to ensure passage for the Warrior of Light to Kogane, and tell me that's not a Slytherin thing to do. G'raha Tia. When we first meet G'raha in the quests for the Crystal Tower, it was hard to tell that he would one day become a major fan favorite. Oh, the things that Shadowbringers does to a player. Graha is a tricky one to sort, having displayed several of all the different houses' traits in spades. He has displayed courage, adventurousness, intellect, cleverness, and the willingness to accomplish lofty goals. But more than anything, he is a loyal ally and an earnest friend, which is why Graha belongs to Hufflepuff. It's hard to imagine the lengths he went to in order to fulfill his goals in the first, the time he spent laboring to bring the Warrior of Light to a world on the brink of ruin, and sort him anywhere but the house most unafraid of toil. Aside from that, honestly, the goodness of his character is just so breathtakingly pure. Graha is the example of the classic good guy who spurns attention and glory for the sake of doing the right thing. And I think that's what we all love about him. Estinian. The former Aesir Dragoon of Ishgard is, on the surface, quite the simple man. From the moment we meet him and throughout the journey from Heavensward to Endwalker, he has simple goals, simple aspirations, and often prefers the simple solutions to the problems he faces. That doesn't mean that he lacks any emotional depth as a character, and I think we can find satisfaction from seeing the subtle changes to his demeanor over time, especially in his newfound relationship to the dragons that he once loathed, and his friendship with Alphino, a character whose personality couldn't be farther from his own. In the end, I think Estinian belongs to Gryffindor. Nothing short of the bravest and most valorous of warriors can take on the mantle of the Aesir Dragoon. He doesn't back down from a fight, not from dragons, not from emperors, not from living embodiments of despair. And whenever it comes to it, he is unafraid to lay down even his own life for the sake of his Judy and his friends. And finally, we have Krile. While we haven't spent as much time with Krile so far, her personality and distinguished character design have garnered her quite a few fans. When we first meet her, her wit and charm come across sharp as a knife, and her talents for healing and helping others become quite apparent soon after. While arguments can be made for Krile belonging to Slytherin, due to her clever nature, her determination, and her vision for the students of Baldascion, I think Krile most likely ends up in Ravenclaw. Much like her fellow Archons, Y'shtola and Urianger, Krile is gifted when it comes to scholarly pursuits. She is very well read in a great number of topics, methodical in seeking solutions to the obstacles at hand, and is still open-minded enough to challenge even the Forum of Sharlayan. So, that's it for sorting the Scions. In summary, we have, in Gryffindor, Thancred, Alisaie, Lys, and Estinian. In Ravenclaw, Y'shtola, Urianger, and Krile. In Hufflepuff, Minfilia, Papalimo, and Graha. And in Slytherin, Alphino and Tataru. What do you think? Would you have sorted any of the Scions differently, and if so, why? Hit the comments and let me know, and if you want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be pretty cool. Till next time.